Today on Steelers Talk, we discuss Asante Samuel Jr. officially scheduling a visit to Pittsburgh next week and the likelihood of the black and gold signing the former Charger cornerback. Then we'll talk about MVS, and he revealed his reason why he came to Pittsburgh, and I think it's pretty obvious, but we'll talk about that later in today's show. And then we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers, who says that he is more than happy with the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room after the team did not make a trade before the trade deadline. But before we get into the content today, make sure you guys click that subscribe button, because later today we will be going live. Me and Ponzi will be discussing the latest surrounding the black and gold and getting you guys ready for this Sunday night's matchup versus the Los Angeles Chargers. It all starts today at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to get your question on this week's mailbag, if you guys want to check out the very latest surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's what we'll be discussing later today. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button to never miss any of our free content here on the Pittsburgh Steelers, right here on Steelers Talk. So a report came out yesterday that Asante Samuel Jr., the hot button free agent now, who has been cleared to play, is taking a bunch of visits, and one of those visits will be to the south side of Pittsburgh here next Wednesday. Now, he's going to be a very busy man over the next 2 weeks. Yesterday, he visited the Carolina Panthers. Today, he'll be in Green Bay to visit the Packers. Tomorrow, he'll be in Minnesota to visit the Vikings. And then he starts it all over next week, where next Monday, he will visit the 49ers. Then he'll visit the Bears next Tuesday. And then he will visit the Pittsburgh Steelers next Wednesday. So the fact that he's scheduling all these visits indicates that he's probably willing to take his time to make sure that wherever he goes, it is the right fit, that he's going to get the proper amount of playing time, that he likes the head coach, he likes the defensive coordinator, he likes the scheme and their plan to deploy him in that scheme. So it seems like he's willing to, take his time, do his research, and, eventually come to a decision. And listen, man, he's probably the biggest name free agent that is out there right now. And maybe the reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers might have a little bit of an edge here is that the Steelers team doctor actually did Asante Samuel's spinal fusion this offseason. He's a world-renowned spinal surgeon. So this is certainly something that gives, the Steelers maybe an inside word, maybe an inside edge to getting Asante Samuel Jr., because I'm sure the doctor here has certainly given him a pretty glowing recommendation of the Steelers organization. And then also having Coach Tomlin here in Pittsburgh certainly can't hurt either. We know Aaron Rodgers is here in Pittsburgh because of Coach Tomlin. We know many players say that they want to play for Coach T at some point during their NFL career, and he is consistently polled as the number one coach that NFL players want to play for and respect the most. So having a guy like Asante Samuel Jr., whose dad, Asante Samuel Sr., has been very complimentary of the Steelers organization and Mike Tomlin. It certainly seems like, the dots are starting to be connected here between Asante Samuel Jr. and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But listen, man, if this is going to happen and ASJ is going to be coming here to Pittsburgh, it's going to have to be because he gets a guaranteed starting spot from Mike Tomlin himself, okay? There's a lot of cornerback-needy teams in the National Football League, and right now the Pittsburgh Steelers have a cornerback setup where you've got Joey Porter Jr., Brandon Echols, and then Darius Slay. And they did spend a lot of money to bring Slay in this offseason, and if you bring in Asante Samuel Jr., Slay would be the odd man out, and he becomes immediately one of the most expensive backup cornerbacks in the National Football League. But what I'll say is that Samuel absolutely would be an immediate upgrade over Darius Slay in this Steelers defense. You guys can take a look here at what we're dealing with right now. You got Joey Porter Jr., got Darius Slay on the outside as well. Then Brandon Echols is playing in the nickel while Jalen Ramsey is starting at one of the safety spots. But, of course, you can put Jalen Ramsey at any of these positions as well, given certain injuries that pop up, all that different stuff. But my guess at the end of the day, guys, is that with all these teams, okay, Green Bay just lost Nate Hobbs. San Francisco could certainly use, cornerback help. Chicago is really desperate for cornerback help as well. Same thing with Carolina. A lot of these teams that Samuel is visiting, I would say, are more, strapped for cornerback help than maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers are. They just had an awesome performance defensively with Darius Slay having a full workload, by the way, last Sunday versus the Indianapolis Colts. So, I'm not 100% sure the Pittsburgh Steelers will even give ASJ the guarantee that he would be a starting player in this defense. I'm sure they would probably say you can earn it if you earn it, all those different things, but I'm not sure if he's going to have the assurances from the Steelers that he's going to get from other teams. So I think at the end of the day, he will probably decide to play elsewhere. But he certainly does have some connections here to Pittsburgh, so you can't completely rule it out at this point. There is a reason why he's taking a visit after all. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Asante Samuel Jr. be a Steeler this year? Type S if you think he's a Steeler, or type O if you think he goes elsewhere. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I tell you about Prize Picks, let me know if you think Asante Samuel Jr. is a Steeler this year or not. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And the hard-hitting football action this season is just getting started, and it's even better with our friends at Prize Picks. The weather might be changing outside, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is super simple to play, guys. You just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose the flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you really know ball and you want the biggest payouts for getting everything right, go for the power play. No matter how you play, though, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So join the millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app today. All right, so for my Prize Picks lineup this weekend, guys, I'm taking the more on Aaron Rodgers passing yards. I'm taking the more on rushing yards for Jaylen Warren and the less on Justin Herbert passing yards. If you guys want to download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS, you guys get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, so Aaron Rodgers, of course, MVS's former teammate there with the Green Bay Packers, is apparently the reason that he has decided to come play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, it was well reported that Aaron was trying to recruit MVS to the Steelers back when he was released by the Seattle Seahawks after the preseason. Of course, he ends up going to the San Francisco 49ers instead, and then he gets released by that team, and now I guess he's back where he was always meant to be here with the Pittsburgh Steelers and his old QB Aaron Rodgers. This is what MVS had to say about A-Rod. He's the best that ever played this game, man, so it's pretty easy when you got that guy under center and just being on the same page. We built a great rapport over the 4 years that we got to play together, and he's one of my closest friends in this NFL thing that I've ever made. He's taught me a lot, so just being able to be around him again and get some more knowledge 4 years later, I'm excited about it. He called back in September, and we talked about it a couple times. And he said he would love to have me here in Pittsburgh, made his pitch, and it was down to the wire, to be honest. I was already on the West Coast, so it was kind of easier to stay over there in San Francisco, moving around and stuff. But going back home for a week and get reset, I said, hey, man, I want to keep playing this thing, and gave Aaron a call, and he was like, quote, let's do it. So certainly Aaron is a big reason why MVS is here. He's going to be wearing number 11. So certainly excited to see what he can do in the black and gold. And it certainly seems like Aaron himself is pretty darn happy with the way that the wide receiver room and kind of his weapons is kind of shaping out here on the Steelers offensive roster. He was asked yesterday in his media availability what he thought about all the trade buzz that was going around surrounding the wide receiver position, and this is what he had to say about that. That's a lot of outside talk. What I've learned about the trading deadline is that there's a lot of conversation and rarely is there a lot of action. You feel pretty good about your guys, and we added Marquez Valdes-Scantling to the P squad. You got to look at the way we're playing and the personnel groupings that we like. We're a multiple personnel team. We run a lot of guys out there. We had an offensive lineman play a lot of snaps at tight end. Obviously, Darnell plays a lot of snaps. Jonnu and Pat. Connor gets in there on some plays, rotating 3 different backs, a lot of different receivers. We're not a big 3-receiver team in general, and when Calvin's come back and played really well for us, Roman's been more consistent, so there was probably more noise outside of the facility than maybe inside the facility. So in other words, the wide receiver room that the Pittsburgh Steelers have right now fits the offense that they run. I mean, most teams do run a lot of 11 personnel. That's the modern day NFL offense. So I understand why fans, certainly talk about a wide receiver trio and, Calvin's not a true number 2, Roman's not a true number 2, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is this offense plays a lot of tight ends and, gets the ball to running backs. lots of different personnel groupings, and they don't really play a lot of 11 personnel, which means 3 wide receivers on the field. So because of that, there's really only 2 bona fide starting receivers on this team, and they feel really good about DK Metcalf as their 1, with Calvin Austin the 3rd as their number 2. And frankly, guys, if Aaron Rodgers is good with the weapons that he has to throw to, so should you, and so should we, okay? Now, maybe, you can disagree all you want, that's fine, but, if the quarterback of the team and one of the smartest quarterbacks to ever play the game and somebody that's probably the world's leading expert on the Steelers offense, maybe outside of Arthur Smith, is fine with the wide receiver room. Who are we to say that, he's wrong about that prognostication? But you might be saying at home, but Jack, what if DK Metcalf gets hurt? There's nobody on this team that can step up into a number 1 receiver role if DK goes down. And I will say that this is probably the number 1 kind of concern with not making a move for, say, like a Jacoby Myers or a quote-unquote legit wide receiver 2 at the NFL trade deadline. But the truth of the matter is, guys, most NFL teams are 1 major injury to a star player away from it becoming a disaster. I mean, just look at the Cincinnati Bengals when they lost Joe Burrow. Most teams, if they lose their starting quarterback, the season is over. Hell, if the Steelers lose Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers season is over, right? If they lose TJ Watt, things are going to, devolve at least a little bit, just like they did last year. Most teams are 1 receiver injury away to their number 1 guy from really not being in a good spot. There's really maybe 5 or 6 teams in the league where if they can lose their number 1 receiver, you can be like, all right, we got a guy that can step up into a true number 1 role. There's not many teams that can say that. So to bash the Steelers for being in the same situation that a large majority of NFL teams are still in right now, I think is a little bit of faulty logic, in my opinion. And my take on the whole situation, guys, is that sure, adding another complimentary wide receiver piece to this offense, especially a bigger-bodied route runner with really good hands, cough, cough, Jacoby Myers, would have been really nice. And personally, I probably would have offered more than Omar Khan did for Jacoby Myers' services, and I would have matched the Jacksonville Jaguars' offer of a 4th and a 6th round pick. I probably would have been able to go up to a 4th and a 5th round pick, all right? I would. But, let's not pretend that, this offense stinks. They're, above league average in most offensive categories right now. And I think that this group, because, this is their first year playing together, are only going to get better as the season goes on. So let's not pretend that the season is lost or that this offense is terrible because they didn't make a move at wide receiver. And like I said earlier, guys, if A-Rod is good with this group of weapons, I think so should we. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Are you good with the weapons that the Pittsburgh Steelers have on this roster right now? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me, that answer is yes, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. That'll be it for today's first Steelers Talk video of the day. Again, we'll be live later this evening starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll have another video come out after that as well. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button for all of our Steelers content today and all throughout the rest of Week 10.